What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Less than 2 weeks away from the start of FPL, and today I'm taking you through the players that I think are the most overpriced that you should not be owning in your FPL teams. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. FPL Harry, and today it is the most overpriced players. Who have FPL got wrong this season when making their pricing? Before we dive in, 1,000 likes on the video. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. If you're wanting to see my latest draft, that has been uploaded early in the week as well. But we're just going to dive straight in. Number one is Kevin De Bruyne, 10.5 million for him. It just feels too much, particularly given the prices that a lot of the other midfielders have come in so far this season. So if we look at the likes of Bruno Fernandes, we look at the likes of Marcus Rashford, the Arsenal midfielders like Bukayo Saka, all being at least $1.5 million less than Kevin De Bruyne. Plus, a lot of us are thinking that we should get minutes, reliable minutes out of Phil Foden this season, coming in at 7.5 million. 3 million less than Kevin De Bruyne. Now, his returns last season were not bad. However, with Haaland in the team, they now become very weighted towards his assists rather than his goals, which of course for FPL is not the way around that you want it to be. He does average almost an expected assist per 90 minutes that he's on the pitch, but for 10.5 million, given the other prices for midfielders, it's too much for me. Number two, we go to a defender, and it is Ben White of Arsenal. He's come in at 5.5 million, which feels like it has to be a mistake. I'm sure someone at FPL headquarters clicked the wrong button when they were doing Ben White. Yes, towards the end of last season, there were a couple of attacking returns. He got a few assists and a few goals. And actually, his attacking data in terms of actual output was better than the other Arsenal defenders that we had. However, they've just signed Timber. They have Tomiyasu who can rotate with him. Plus, he's just not as good going forward generally when you look at the underlying data compared to the likes of Gabriel and Saliba as well. They've defined that purely based off a couple of fluky attacking returns that he got at last season. There is absolutely no grounds that you should be owning Ben White in your team at 5.5 million when Gabriel is 5, Saliba is 5, Ramsdale is 5, and even Zinchenko, when he comes back into the fold, is 5 as well. Ben White should have 0% ownership. It's crazy. I'm sure they made a mistake. Next up, our favourite neighbourhood goalkeeper that ruins our FPL seasons year after year, and it is Ederson at 5.5 million. He's in almost 15% of squads. Now, this goes actually for any 5.5 million goalkeeper. So Allister and Pope you can throw in here as well, but I had to use Ederson as the graphic because he's such a painful own in FPL, particularly at the end of last season. Goalkeepers are not just there in our FPL teams for clean sheets. If you are picking the player just because you think they're going to get the clean sheets, which Ederson in theory should, his expected goals conceded was pretty good last season and they were expected to get 15 clean sheets. And actually he underperformed that. They only got 11, a lot of which was down to Ederson's individual mistakes. Goalkeepers in FPL need to not only get clean sheets, but they need to make saves as well. Plus, they need to be in teams that don't necessarily score a lot of goals to be good FPL options, because then that means that they are more likely to go and get bonus points. Ederson is in the team that's going to score the most amount of goals, plus he's going to make the least amount of saves. So the bonus points are not there, the save points are not there, plus he's only a 6 or 2 point goalkeeper every week because of that. He's just a nightmare to own. You're better off going for a 4.5 goalkeeper in the likes of Steele, Pickford, Johnston, or even up to 5 million in the likes of Onana and Pickford. 14% if you have Ederson, please sell him. Now, there's a lot of talk about the Arsenal midfielders, and some of them are great, but one of them I do not understand their pricing is Kai Havertz, their new signing, coming at 7.5 million, just 0.5 million less than Martinelli. It's just crazy. Again, 1 million less as well than Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard. Last season, 7 goals, 1 assist, 0.4 expected goals per 90. He was, of course, at Chelsea, 0.1 expected assists per 90, returning less than 4 points per 90 minutes he's on the pitch. Now, the Arsenal fixtures are great. Arsenal assets as a whole are great, but please don't go and pay 7.5 million for Kai Havertz. Even if you're an Arsenal fan, we don't know he's going to start every week. We do not know what role he's going to play. 7.5 million is way too much for him. Next up, we have another move in the Premier League, and that is McAllister, who, of course, has gone from being a fantastic asset for us at the end of last season for Brighton, moving to Liverpool. He's come in at 6 million, and on paper you might think, oh, that's not a bad return. 15% owned though. I just don't think McAllister at Liverpool is going to be an asset we want to start the season with. You can pay 0.5 more and go for the likes of Diaby at Aston Villa, the likes of Eze at Crystal Palace, Mitoma at Brighton and Bruyne at Brentford. All are much better assets for just 0.5 more. Now, the underlying data for him was not bad last season. 0.37 expected goals per 90, scored 10 goals last season, got more than 4 points per start. But what you need to remember is McAllister got a lot of those points from being on penalties for Brighton. Now, who is the Liverpool penalty taker? It is Mo Salah, and I cannot see McAllister taking penalties away from Mo Salah. Mo Salah will want to chase the golden boot. Again, he'll want to compete with Haaland, and if you take penalties away from him, the chances of him being able to match Haaland is just not going to be there. I think Salah will keep penalties, which means McAllister is not worth, even at 6 million. Just find the 0.5 extra, go up to one of those 6.5 million midfielders. Next up is Heung-Min Son, which might be a controversial one, but I just don't see 9 million being a good price for him to start the season with. There might be points during next season that we all want to go and own Son, but game week 1, I don't want to go there. I'd rather, if I'm going to take a risk on Spurs assets, which spoiler, I'm not going to at all, I'd rather pay 7.5 million than just go for Maddison, which feels a little bit safer. He is the same price as Rashford, more than Saka, more than Bruno Fernandes, more than Odegaard, more than Foden. The list goes on and on. To be honest, I'd rather start the season with Mbeumo than I would start with Son in my team. His performances last season were just not there. He did not perform at the level we wanted him to. We haven't seen it in pre-season either. Even in this new look Spurs side where they're playing a back four and they have the sort of front four with Kulusevski, with Maddison in there with Son and Harry Kane, who might be on his way out of Tottenham. It does look like the Bayern owners are flying to England at the moment to have a meeting with them. Even if it's Richarlison up front, again, Richarlison then comes in at 7 million. 9 million for Son is just too expensive. Now, the most highly owned player in this list is in one of 3 teams, and I am going to tell you that I think Kieran Trippier, the highest scoring defender in FPL last season, is overpriced, particularly for game week 1. Now, his underlying data last season was pretty good. He got 9 assists, averaging an assist expected every 3 games, averaging over 5 points per 90 minutes as well. However, if you remember at the end of last season, Newcastle definitely didn't perform defensively as well as we would want them to. And when you look at their opening fixtures as well, I just can't vouch for owning Trippier. Manchester City, Liverpool in their first 3. Aston Villa, Brighton, Brentford as well in their first 5 is not easy fixtures as well. I'd be surprised if they kept more than 1 clean sheet in that first 5 fixtures. Plus, when you compare the prices of other defenders in at 5.5 million, like Luke Shaw, like Gabriel at 5, like Estupiñán at 5, like Ben Chilwell and John Stones up at 5.5 as well. I just cannot see there being any reason why 34% of the game should own Trippier at 6.5 million. And then finally is another defender. It's Van Dijk, but it goes for Van Dijk and Robertson, who have about 15% ownership combined. I understand that people can't afford Trent, so they might be looking for an alternative Liverpool defender, but you can't cover Trent with another Liverpool defender, particularly Van Dijk and Robertson. Just go and buy another defender who's going to score points. Like we mentioned when we're talking about Trippier, go and buy John Stones, Ben Chilwell, Luke Shaw, Gabriel or Estupiñán for $1 million cheaper than some of these Liverpool defenders. He only scored 3 goals last season. He only got 1 assist. Liverpool were not that great defensively. We don't know who's going to be playing defensive midfield for them. So I don't necessarily think they're going to be really assured defensively going into the start of the season. The fixtures for Liverpool as well are pretty mixed from a defensive point of view. Bournemouth at home in game week 2 is good, and then from game week 5 onwards it gets good. But Chelsea away, Newcastle away, and Aston Villa as well in their first 4. I'd be surprised if they kept more than 1 clean sheet in their first 4 games as well. So please don't go with Van Dijk, and please don't go with Robertson as well. If you're going to go with Trent, great, he's a good asset. But if you're not going to go with Trent, just go and look elsewhere at other defenses in the league. So a quicker video, I think, for you today. It is having a look at my most overpriced players that you need to ignore from your FPL teams. Let me know what you think. Anyone I've missed, anyone you disagree with, particularly I think Son and Trippier might be ones that you don't necessarily agree with. Let me know what you think. 1,000 likes on the video is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here, and we'll be back again very soon.